Good afternoon. I'm just open for a question. We had off tomorrow, yesterday. Guys were really kind of emotioned out with the 3 road games in 6 days, and after this we'll have a short practice and get ready for Saturday. But everyone's healthy and raring to go. So, any questions that you all might have?
Mike, I'm curious whether you've talked to your team about kind of not just the circumstances surrounding this game, but if there's ever a game a Duke team really couldn't risk losing, it kind of feels like this one. Not that pressure is anything new to your teams or any of that, or the spotlight or any of that, but have you discussed with them kind of those circumstances and acknowledged that with them?
Not yet, because I didn't meet with them yesterday, and I just texted them last night when we were sure that we were the outright winners of the regular season, just to congratulate them. And but I'll talk to them today, where I don't want them to feel there's so much about me, but the moment is about us, and so I want them to understand it's our moment, and it just happens to be in this situation, and for them, not to play because it's coach's last game, but to play because we should want to win, and so I'll try to get that message across to them.
Hey, Mike. It sounds like there could be up to 80 of your former Duke players coming to this game. I mean, what does it mean to you to have that many come to this moment?
Well, in the first few years, I don't think I would have predicted that 80 of them would be coming back, or that I would even have 80. But no, it's great. By being in one place and having a good level of success throughout, you're able to form a lot of friendships, and it's like Jeff and I, they did a really nice thing at Pitt, and then we talked, and when he was 17, he could not imagine that we would be friends. And after a few of his games, he could really have a hard time imagining that, although most of his games were good. And that's one of the treasures of coaching this long at one place is those friendships. And I know yesterday I had a long talk with Quinn Snyder, and we have an unbelievable relationship, and I told him I want him to have that relationship with John, and because they're 2 very similar guys in their approach to the game, and getting calls. I was texting with Kyrie this morning, and those mean a lot. I mean, a lot of guys can't be here, and but the guys that are coming, that'll be great. I think they're probably going to get together in different groups, so that's a cool thing.
Coach, if I might get away from what's going on with you at the moment,
That'd be all right. Yeah.
Yeah, this has always been like your State of the Union address.
I'm sorry?
This has always been like your State of the Union address. You cover many things during these meetings before UNC.
Right.
A lot of times you've talked about basketball, what's going on with it college-wise, locally here. Is there anything during your last go-round with this that you're thinking about or is on your mind about the game or the program? And
Yeah, I tape my XM show on Thursday mornings for tonight, and I had Eli Manning on, but Mark Adams, the coach for Texas Tech, who is in his 60s and has done it at every level, and like for him, he has 7 transfers on his team, and they've done great. And so, how do you manage this enterprise? I wish the powers to be, whoever they are, I don't even know who the powers to be are, would recognize that basketball is an enterprise. It's a billion-dollar business, and it needs to be run that way. And it can't be run that way if it's run the same way as everyone else. That doesn't mean there couldn't be some commonality with all sports, but you have to be specific in your responsibilities, in your vision, in your diligence in following the sport on a day-to-day basis. And we don't have that. We've not had that. And so that concerns me, because I don't even know who you talk to about it. It's like a bunch of ships out there. Where do you port? Where do you dock? You know, and it's a troubling time, really. And I'm probably not on top of it like I would normally be, because to be quite frank, I don't want to think about it anymore. It's been very frustrating. That's been kind of a failing in my time, that we weren't able to have a bigger influence. Me and my brothers in coaching were not able to have a bigger influence on the future of the game.
Mike, you've taken 4 decades worth of people through Senior Day. I'm sure you've given some advice on how to handle the emotion of that.
Yeah.
Give yourself on what Senior Day.
Yeah, no, it's a great point, Pat. Actually, I said that to my staff this morning. I said, who would have ever thought? It's my senior day. And, well, I won't be concerned about me using up all my energy in warm-ups. You know, I've tried not to think about it that much, but I know it will be emotional. And I don't know, but a couple of years ago I did a letter to yourself for CBS. Maybe I should write one of those tonight. But your point's a good one, and I'm not sure how I'll do.
Yeah, along the same lines, you've been very intentional this year about not thinking about this and the team, worrying about what the team needed each game. The last 3 games, though, you know, the Bennett speech before and the scholarship at Syracuse and the stuff with Jeff the other night, how are you dealing with your emotions now after those 3 things? And then the finality of it is here. It's a couple days away, and we're here. How are you dealing with it and all that?
Yeah, you know, those things were great, and I've had time. I didn't have time to reflect on them before the game. So when it happened, I put it in. It's easy for me to put it in on the back burner, and then, you know, like I talked to Syracuse's AD the next day because it hit me. Wow, you know, and then we had a great talk about the history of veterans at Syracuse, and with Jeff, I talked to him later, and with this, there's so much before, you know, and so it's different, you know, it's just different, and you know, because I've tried never to look in the past too much or in the future, but you know, a little bit of thinking yesterday, it's your last game in Cameron, right? It's crazy. You know, how did that happen? You know, how was it here? And just like Pat was asking, you know, I'll have to spend some time, have a meeting with me. Maybe a few tough talks about keeping my eyes on the road, so to speak. And yeah, you know, it's, and you know, in sport, you never know what's going to happen. So the spontaneity of emotion, of performance, and that is one of the great things about sport. It really is reality TV. Reality TV is not reality TV. Sport is, and that's the beauty of it in whatever sport it is, and that's the life I've led, you know, and so I think I'm just going to, overall, I'm talking to myself right now, just let it happen, you know, and see what the hell happens, you know, and But try not to let it negatively influence anything for my players, because look, for them, it's it's their game. They're playing the game. I'm not playing the game, and I'm responsible for making sure that they have the best chance to win that game. And I got to keep my eyes on the road for that.
A lot of people, when they approach retirement, are excited, nervous, a lot of things, right? It's a huge, huge change, and here you are. I'm just wondering, so much of your identity is this place, and so much of this place's identity is you. There's such a
Right.
connection there. How do the two separate from one another? Like, how will you redefine you, and how do you think Duke will kind of redefine Duke?
Well, we won't separate. You don't spend your 42 years here. I mean, Durham is our home. We've seen Durham grow into one of the great cities in the United States, and this university continue to grow. And my wife and I are going to stay on as ambassadors for the school. And I actually had a good half-hour talk with Vince Price this morning about this weekend, but also about that role and how we can help in furthering Duke's cause. Look, but in saying that, I will have nothing to do with our basketball program. This is not about me. I think some people have told me in some things that have been written where I'm trying to maintain control. That could not be further from the truth. It was mine for 42 years. But it's Duke's forever, and whatever I can do to help Duke and the program and Duke athletics, I'll do. But and I'll be busy because I do a lot of speaking and see what I want to get another dog quickly, like because of the season we didn't want to train a puppy, but I've missed my dog big time during this season. So, like yesterday, it was so beautiful here, and I had to do some business, but when I got the business done, I was going home. I said, this would be a hell of a day to walk blue, and I'm going to look forward to that. We in coaching, in any sport, you give up to have the life that few have. And so I've lived that life, and now I'm going to be selfish about not giving up anything. And in saying that, for my wife, she's made so many sacrifices. And to be quite frank with you, she hasn't reminded me that much about it. But I think in retirement, she's probably going to get what she wants most of the time, and because I have no excuse. Like, I got to see this recruit, or I got a meeting with Paulo, and those things aren't going to work.
I wanted to ask a little bit about the picture that the team Instagram account put out a couple days ago of you looking over at K-ville. What kind of thoughts and emotions are running over or in your head as you're kind of looking out over this microcosm of everything your career has created?
Well, I take a little bit different look at it than that, because the Schwartz Butters building overlooks all the tents. So when the pandemic, when we didn't have it, I've really missed seeing it every day. Like you look out your window and say, whoa, that's there for our program. And then my daughter, Debbie, helps run, like with the line monitors and that. So every once in a while, I'll bust in my conference room, and there'll be Debbie and the line monitors having a meeting. So I get to meet with them, and they did a fantastic job renewing. We lost that bit of our culture. Like, these things are good for a university's culture. There's a spirit. How do you get everyone together. Sport does that. And so I just have looked at it and say, you know, I'm pretty lucky. I'm really lucky to have that. You know, I've been coaching for 47 years, and almost 5 decades to coach at West Point and Duke. And then 11 years of coaching the U.S. team. You can't get much luckier than that. It's been such an honor and a privilege to do it for 2 of the greatest schools in the world, and then obviously for your own country's team. You know, very lucky. And glad that Kobe hit a few shots against Spain, so I was able to keep doing it.
You mentioned a little while ago about this team being able to stay in the moment. Is that something they've improved on throughout the season?
Yeah.
And how much from the starting point to now have they improved?
Yeah, immensely. You know, and us in being able to know them and coach them. You know, I feel like in the last couple of weeks, the maturity of our team, not that we're immature, but the maturity of our team has gone up a lot. And we've changed a couple things that we do in not doing as much, but doing fewer things deeper. And it seems to, they seem to have it, maybe it's time for them to absorb more, or that combination of the timing is right and that little bit of change. Really, it showed up in our Virginia game. The practice before, the day before, we're running defense, and I'm looking, I told Chris Carrawell and John, I said, you know, these guys look like a machine out here. They look like one of our old teams. And, you know, right now we're moving the ball better. We just seem to have made a jump, and hopefully this game will help us make another jump.
Mike, how early in your tenure did you discover what an asset Cameron could be, and how has your relationship with the students evolved over the years?
Yeah, well, we've always considered the students of being like the sixth man or sixth person or whatever you want to say. And I really commend our school, our university, for those could be very expensive seats, you know, once we got, and they've made it for the undergrads and the grad students. Probably, you know, in the, I don't know what year, 84 or whatever, it's just started, like, you know, the craziness. And obviously it's an advantage. I think it used to be more of an advantage because now it became like a bucket list target for opponents to win there. And not that they didn't want to win before, but it's a little bit more, I think. But the relationship with the students has been terrific. You know, early on in trying to build it, we would go out and speak to fraternities, sororities, different houses. I remember going to Bog. Bog used to, a bunch of guys, and going to their place. And who would you guess from our mid-'80s team would be in that area? Huh? Mahar. Yeah, he was obviously part of that. But no, it's been great. And then we usually have a meeting the night before the Carolina game with the students in Cameron. We will again this year, and that's been great.
Mike, what do you remember about that first game? Your first game, the emotions, everything leading up to it that you coached here, and then One more, and all you need is one word of this. How many times in your career have you spoken to Mark Emmert?
To who?
Mark Emmert.
Not much lately. A few times, but never in the capacity of, hey, Mike, what do you think we should do at college basketball? And I would have said, why don't we convene a group of agents, of shoe companies, we had that summit 2005, it was some Raveling, they put it together, and we've never had anything since. I don't remember my first game here. The game I remember from my first season, maybe because we were only so good, was the Carolina game, where Kenny hit Gene and we sent it to overtime and we were able to win, and that was like electrifying, because as electrifying as coaching against Raftery at Seton Hall in their small gym was, and our field house. God bless those days, but that was like, wow, this is really something. And in saying this, because you bring up the first game, I'll be forever grateful to my AD, Tom Butters, and he believed in me 3 times, and all of us need opportunities, but I think I mentioned this when I announced that I was going to retire, but it's really cool, and if the person or the people who give you the opportunity believe in you, because then you get through tough times. In this day and age, if I was in this day and age, I hope there would still be a Tom Butters, but there's a good chance that I be teaching in high school or coaching, because I'd be fired. And so he believed in me enough to hire me, to stick with me. And when I was having physical and mental health problems during 94, 95, he stuck with me, even though I asked him, I put in my resignation to him. And he said, no way. And those are the moments that those people that believe in you, when you can't see the light, they see the light in you. And that light in you never goes. Their belief is their light in you, and it never extinguished. And that's what Tom did for me.
Speaking of people who believe in you, you mentioned your wife, and you're not going to have.
I'm not sure, but what day is it? Better check.
But you won't have the excuses with her. Just having her and Debbie and the Core 4 around, what has it been like going through this week with them? And how much has it meant to you to have them be such an integral part of this moment?
Yeah, well, we're Coach's family, so we haven't talked about this until after the Pitt game. They know there's not going to be any talk about anything until that's the next game. So now this is that, and I'll have a lot of family here. My brother's wife and my nieces and their families. My best friend, a lot of the Columbos, and anyway, it'll be neat to share. But my wife has been a great wife, but a great coach's wife, and even today we just got off the phone. I call her midday just to make sure I don't get in trouble, and she said, I don't want to put any more on your plate. And I said, well, when did that start happening? But but a lot of people are coming in. How are we going to be able to spend quality time? So she and Debbie are handling that, either after the game or Sunday morning. And I said, no, it's a good thing to put on the plate. And she's really talented and smart, and so are my daughters. And I've said this many times, but a big reason I think that I've continued to try to get better and get better is because of being with four ladies, and a woman's wisdom, their understanding of people and situations, and they just ask a hell of a lot more questions, and even like a guy gets tired of it, but then when they walk away, they say, "Yeah, I'm glad they asked that question," and we just have to be curmudgeons, just it's in our nature. So,
Mike, over here.
I'm sorry.
Obviously, when you decided to make this your last season, you retired, there were certain thresholds you had to pass, mentally, physically, a lot of decisions that go into that. But as you talk here, more than 48 hours from this game tipping, I know what you just said, it's always going to be Dukes. You've been here 42 years, but you've been here 42 years, and you've got another few weeks to play. Are you emotionally, spiritually ready to let go of this? Have you reached that point?
Yeah, I am.
Yes.
Yes, and I wouldn't have made that announcement unless I knew that I had to do this season. I had to do this season for continuity, especially from the pandemic, and to have a plan of how look. I want the program to keep going, and stay at the level that we have most of the time been. We haven't we've been knocked back at times, and that's going to happen. But for the most part, we've been one of the programs, and John is going to do an amazing job with that, and so I'm ready. Believe me, there's no thought in my mind. Like, I won't be at games. Where do I sit?
I think they'll find a spot for you, Mike.
No, but I'm not going to hover over anything, and everyone needs their space, and they'll need their space. But right now, it's still my space, and I'm going to try to finish out, in a good place. I think we are in a good place, but it's not like I'm looking forward to the end of the season. When I say I'm looking forward to that new chapter, don't confuse it with that I'm ready for this to be over. I'm not. We've put too much into it, and so anyway.
Just a quick follow-up. I know this answer would apply to both, but I'm wondering, from your perspective, does this feel more like you're about to coach in your potential final game against Carolina, or your final game at Cameron? Because they're one and the same, but they're two huge things.
It doesn't feel like either one of those. It feels like we're going to coach against Carolina. It's our next game, and we got to win. I mean, that's the mindset. If you're able to push emotion off the plate, it's got to be an emotion for the game. Otherwise, you won't do a good job in the game. And I'm 75 years old. I should have learned that already. So I know I'll do that. I know, and it doesn't mean it's going to translate into a win, but it'll translate into a winning effort. And that's all I ever want for my team are winning efforts. And then winning takes care of itself. The other guy can have a winning effort too. And sometimes theirs is a little bit more than yours. But if you don't have a winning effort, then you're not deserving of winning.
Mike, a lot of teams and schools went to bigger, glitzier arenas in the 80s and 90s. That was sort of at the first opportunity they could. You guys went a different route and preserved Cameron's ability to
Right.
Why was that as important as it was to you? How big of a role did you sort of, or a responsibility did you feel as like being a champion, if you will, of that tradition?
Yeah, you didn't have to be a champion. Everyone recognizes this is it's a very special place, and I think I said a week ago or it's something, I've been doing so many things. Like, one of the things I would like to do in that new role is how do we enhance Cameron? You know, by taking a look at what people have done around the world for not just arenas, but great places to keep them alive. There are two buildings here in the athletic facilities that need that, and that's Cameron and Card. These are historic places. You know, they're not just buildings. They're not arenas. They're more than that. They're basically the very fabric of our university. They're part of that fabric, and so I'd like to try to figure that out. It's something the Duke Endowment should be involved in, you know, because it enhances that. Plus, they got a lot of money. They got a lot of money. It's my little sneaky way of maybe making somebody think about that. All right, thank you all.